And welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we have an old friend here, Rebecca Kirsh. She was actually an old friend of mine back from my film school days here at UNC Greensboro, and she's been kind enough to join us to regale us with tales of filmmaking. And in case you were wondering, yes, the Greek festival was amazing. We did get loaded up on lamb and I believe it's souvlaki. And yes, we all fell into a food coma afterwards. So good times ahead, and you will be seeing footage of our adventures to the Yasu Greek Festival within a few weeks. But before we dive in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we are on Spotify now. And his moviness is very, very happy to be on Spotify. And we have many, 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 many episodes to come. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe here, and follow us on Spotify. And we will be on future platforms in the next few months, if I can make the time, and if his moviness will actually get off his ass to do anything. But Rebecca, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Like I said, I was at the Greek festival yesterday. I got loaded up on kebabs and gyros, so I'm still walking it off. Not doing too well on that front, but who's counting? So so Becca, I mean, you and I go way back because we first met at UNC Greensboro, and we actually met at a meeting at the local college TV station.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I remember you telling me that you're, I guess either your is it appropriate to call it your specialty is post production?
It is. Yes.
Okay, so why don't you dive in and just give us a basic idea of who you are, how you got how you got bitten by the film bug, and what led you to decide that filmmaking is the career instead of the number of other options out there.
So when I was a kid, I used to want to be an actress, and so I started making movies and starring in them just so that I would get a chance to act. And back in the VHS days, I would edit edit my movies using 2 VCRs. So I mean, no computers or anything.
So it's really really old school.
Yeah, very 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 old school. I don't even know how I did it.
To our younger viewers out there, back in the day, people used to use these thing called VHS tapes, and they had to use these giant clunky machines called VHS machines, or VHS or whatever it is now, and you had to wind and rewind, and it was very, very complicated. So I recommend you look up those documentaries on how they made films back then, because it is very, very complicated, and this is why we love modern Adobe so much. Not that we're being promoted by them. Just saying. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that in.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, makes me feel old, but yeah. So that's how I used to do it, and then I was introduced to the mini DV tape camcorder, and then I learned iMovie, and that got me started editing. So I was editing, I was about 10 years old, if you can imagine that. And yeah, so it's been a while. And then I started taking movie making classes when I was a kid, because we found a program in Durham called Movie Makers, and they teach kids how to make movies. That's exactly how it sounds.
Right.
Yeah, and I did a lot of acting as a kid. But when I started college, I still did a little acting, but I was focused on behind the scenes, and took an editing class with the old Final Cut Pro 7, which is obsolete now.
Right.
Yeah. but yeah, ever since I graduated, I mean, I've done a lot of other production work. A lot of videography. Did quite a bit of PA work when I was finished with school, just to kind of work my way up, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but a couple of years after I graduated, I landed a full-time editing role at an agency. And then after that, I started working at Camco Manufacturing in Greensboro, and I was there for 6 years. I was videographer and editor, so we did a lot of commercial work, and then after 6 years, I started freelance editing, and so that's what I'm doing currently. I have my own post-production business, Kirsh Studios,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still acting from time to time. I picked that back up actually during COVID because I needed that kind of creative outlet, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, 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 so why, so why did you feel post production was right for you? What made you gravitate towards it?
Um, I think just because I'm an introvert, you know, I'm somebody who likes quiet, and I like focusing on the storytelling aspect, I think, more than anything, because you know, when you're on set, it's, I mean, which I've been done many, many times. It's, you know, it is very chaotic, and
Yeah.
it's really not about, in my opinion, it's really not about the storytelling. It is about shooting it, you know, getting the scene done. And um I just, you know, feel like with editing, you know, it's your time to build the story, and you know, it's not about the chaos, you know. That's just a personal opinion. I know plenty of people who hate editing, and they might argue with me about that, but
Right, right. I know I know in the previous interviews that I've done, I know some people have mentioned that, you know, sometimes it can be a bit hectic just just being on the production set because you sometimes you have to deal with actors who can be a bit demanding. Sometimes they may back out of a project at the last minute, and that can be a bit hectic. So in a way there's a sort of, I guess, comfort level when it comes to post production because you've pretty much gone through the whole chaos thing, and now you're just there putting all the pieces together, you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I completed a short film, premiered about a year ago. Um, I I wrote it, actually wrote it in college, my writing for the screen class. Yeah, you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I decided to produce it 10 years later. A friend of mine kind of talked me into it. I mean, he encouraged me. He really liked the script, and he encouraged me to actually make it.
Yeah.
And I was in a position where I could do it. I could produce it. Um, it was really challenging though, you know, because of all the planning that went into it, and it was really just me alone. Um, I did I did get a very good assistant director to take some of the load off my back, but he kind of came on board later. So, you
Hmm.
know, primarily it was all on me, and you know, and I had a very low budget, so I couldn't afford to compensate people what they were actually worth.
Yeah. I
So
yeah, I know
yeah,
what you mean on that.
yeah. So I had, you know, people drop out at the last minute, um, and it was just constantly, you know, just trying to fill the spaces. it was just, yeah, it was a very chaotic time. And also I was the lead actress, and I was the co-director. So I was wearing so many different hats, and it was kind of like I couldn't just focus on the creative part.
Right,
It
right.
was all the,
Because you're busy managing the entire thing.
yeah.
So I want to ask you about that because like I said, I've spoken with a lot of filmmakers and film producers about the production process, and the one and the one common theme that keeps coming up is that, even for, even for a short film, you do need a lot of financial capital. Was that was that something that you kind of had to wrestle with, had to struggle with? Did you have to look for backers, or was it all self-financed?
So I paid completely out of pocket, and I did have a GoFundMe thing, but but that was just kind of, I thought of that as a way of paying myself back. I did not even break even. But, I mean, I did have some very generous donors. I had that fundraiser up even during the premiere, and any little bit helps. But yeah, I mean, I had the funds, but because nobody was paying me, nobody was investing. It was kind of like, I'll pay as I go, whatever I have to pay. But I knew that a lot of my crew would have to be willing to think of this as a group effort kind of project, what they call sweat equity. And so I think everybody who ended up joining my crew and staying there, I mean, they were all very dedicated to this project, and they were in it for the experience. They liked that this was a romantic comedy. It's not just, I think a lot of people maybe were sticking to one genre, a drama or a horror, and it's done a lot, and myself included. And
Yeah.
so this was a different kind of experience for people, and they were very, very loyal crew, and very generous with their time. And I appreciated everybody who was on board, but it was just hard to get everyone together, at the last minute. But it all worked out, at the end of the day. It was just, it was tough. But yeah, financially, I mean, it was all just kind of pay as I go.
Did the thought ever occur to maybe try to seek out investors, or was that the furthest from your mind during that period?
I really hadn't thought about it, because I hadn't ever done such a huge project before. And this was in the middle of COVID, and the economy had taken people out of their jobs. And I mean, just, yeah. And Hollywood was dead, because nobody could work. And,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it was the whole lockdown thing. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it hadn't even occurred to me, just not having taken something like this on before. I mean, I had done productions in the past, but I had people with me, had other producers kind of holding my hand.
Right.
But yeah.
So this was your first solo effort, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did have a co-director, but she was there really just for on set for me and the other actors, because I did not want to direct myself. I felt very strongly about that. I needed somebody to take charge of that aspect. So I was there to approve the shots, approve my performance. I'd have to watch playback. But I mean, yeah, it was really nice to have that kind of backup.
Right, right.
But
So, this leads me into another question. So when you said that the crew is very dedicated, and you said that this was done through sweat equity. So basically, these are guys because it sounds like they're working pro bono, really.
yeah, I mean, I made sure I fed everybody. I paid for their, gas, and I paid the DP because he was traveling from Atlanta. So, and I knew that, and he was bringing his own gear, and so I'm trying to think, and the people who were working with me in post production, the sound and music, that was different. I compensated them because they were, performing a very long-term service for me. So
Right, right, right.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, in terms of the, the production assistants and grips and yeah, it was pro bono with gas and food comp pretty much.
So it sounds like most of the crew were locals. They were from the area, except for that DP, right?
Right.
Gotcha. So so presumably that meant that they had to keep production within the localized area as well, right?
Yeah, we actually we filmed part of it at UNCG.
Okay.
Um, and the thing is, this film, I mean, it was about my life during college, and so we were filming where it actually took place.
So you actually went to Mary Faust.
What? I don't think we got Mary Faust in the shot, but but we were one of the scenes took place right next to the music building, the School of Music.
Okay.
It's a very pretty location, so that's why I chose that. And we got a lot of shots, just around campus. But have a lot of footage that got cut from the final film, but
Gotcha.
but I'm sure if you saw it, you would recognize it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I definitely want to move on to how you get the actors because because I've learned that actors and this is not to knock on them because I definitely don't feel that way about them at all. I respect them for what they do, but actors are to me they kind of have this mercenary mentality. It's like they'll only do it for payment, and if typically and most of the time if you try to get them to do it for free, it's going to take a lot of convincing. And you did mention that there were situations where actors kind of dropped out at the last minute. Can you walk me through the process of how you of how you cast these actors and how you had to deal with them during this production?
Yeah, well, look, this might be hard to believe, but the casting was the smoothest part of the pre-production process.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I found that I can't speak for Atlanta or LA, the bigger production areas like that, but I think in North Carolina, because this is not if you want to make it as an actor, this is not the place to do it.
Right.
I think that most people will do it for the experience, for the joy of acting, just getting to be creative. At least that's how I feel about it as an actor. I just
Right.
want to act. And I held auditions with on Backstage, and I had casting notices on Facebook, and I just found the right people, and they were very enthusiastic about playing the parts, and they took it very seriously. And well, one of the parts is very easy to cast. He's now my boyfriend, and I live with him. So, but he played one of my love interests, and but I so that kind of just worked out. But yeah, I mean, that's always been my experience though with working with actors. They've never had a problem doing it for free or gas money or never been
Yeah.
an issue. But yeah, I can't speak for other people. There might be some people, I know if they're going through a talent agent, that might be a little bit different because they're paying their agent to find them work, and I could understand if the project is pro bono. It's kind of like, what am I financially gaining from this? I can understand it from that angle, but if it's just kind of like a local film production,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm very, I'm very upfront, whenever I make, casting calls. I'm like, hey, this is non-paid.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, another thing too is because it's because if they're union members too. I mean, there's like a certain set fee that that you're supposed to pay them.
Yeah, and with SAG, I mean, you have to. It has to be a SAG film. So.
Yeah.
In which this was not.
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely a good point.
So I remember back in school, you had this huge collection of Hitchcock films, but you were also very much a Friends girl. Coming out of the 90s, it's rare to meet any woman who did not have an obsession with Friends, and I know my mother had an obsession with Friends because I remember, I think it was like either 2001 or 2002. I was asleep and I got out of bed to go to the bathroom. I saw the living room light was on. I walked in and my mother was watching Friends, and as soon as she saw me, she was like, "Shit!" and she turned the TV off. Like, I didn't want you to know this at all. Were you? I was wondering if maybe you could talk about what influences you as a filmmaker, because I definitely want to say that Hitchcock and Friends were like the two big things that kind of inform your aesthetic, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I wanted to see if maybe you can sort of flesh that out.
Well, I definitely do have a Psycho poster on my wall. So yeah, and in Friends posters. Yeah, I'm definitely a fangirl of both of those things. Yeah, in terms of kind of what's inspired me. I mean, I watched horror movies when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have, but my dad got me into them essentially. And that's kind of what got me into filmmaking. I made horror movies when I was like 9 or 10 or something, which is really hard to believe. But I don't know. I don't know if it's because of all the visuals. I think because I hear this a lot from other filmmakers that they got into filmmaking, from watching horror movies. I think it's probably something to do with the aesthetics, all this,
Yeah.
the blood and guts and jump scares. And I don't know, there's so much going on. I don't know. That's just maybe a hunch, but
yeah.
Yeah. So, but in terms of Friends, I mean, that's more, I wouldn't say that had really anything to do with my filmmaking. It's just more of entertainment for me. But I did go to LA a couple months ago to the Warner Brothers studio tour, and I went to the Central Perk set and sat on the couch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. There's so much Friends stuff on that on that lot.
Now, did they have to drag you out off that set because you're just clinging onto the couch like, I'm never leaving?
No, I mean, they had a long line of people waiting to get their picture taken there, so it was kind of okay, snap. All right, next. And I stood there for a few minutes just sort of taking it all in, like, oh my God, I just just sat on the couch. And it was a lot of fun, just going to Warner Brothers and seeing, all the, not just friends, but props and costumes from, classic movies. It was
Right.
it was a really, really cool experience. I'd say I enjoyed that the most, when I was in LA, seeing all the, behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna say too, because b- because usually when you talk to filmmakers and you ask them, well, what's your aesthetic? They really can't give you an answer, because it's like it's just something that happens organically. Um, do you feel like there's like a certain motif or a certain, I guess, like a certain way of doing movies that kind of seeps into your work
Um,
that you're
well,
aware of?
I guess, I mean, I did a lot of dark subject matter, really up until my most recent film, Love and Less, which was, like, as I mentioned before, a romantic comedy. But yeah, I mean, everything else I did was, um, had at least some kind of a dramatic element. Um, and I think that that's just a lot of, I think it's just like an emotional outlet, really.
Mm,
And when I write, I mean, I try to keep things very realistic, conversational. Um, I did do kind of a sort of a somewhat supernatural film, or had a supernatural element to it. But I tried to, base it on the truth. So,
mm.
because I know a lot of writers, or, new writers, especially in class, they would, um, you know, they were very ambitious with their writing. They,
Oh yeah, yeah.
a lot of action heavy scripts. Um, the dialogue wasn't really believable, and I don't know. And you see that a lot, though. I think. Um,
I remember seeing a few student films back in school, and it kind of made you and I scratch our heads, and we're like, well, what the hell is this? Because you start off with a very ambitious idea, and then when you try to translate it and into actual filmmaking, it actually kind of just falls apart
yeah,
all over the place. So so you did mention earlier that you worked as a videographer for a company for 6 years, and then you decided to go freelance. What made you decide, what, I'd rather be my own boss? Because that would sound like a sweet gig to be a videographer at a company.
yeah. Um, I mean, I was there for a very long time, and I had learned a lot. Um, but it kind of reached a point where I felt like there wasn't really anywhere further I could go. Um, because I kind of helped build the video department that it is today. And, you know, I, I think I think it's nice to be the least experienced person when you're, on a set, because you're learning, and it's a
Right.
place where you can grow. And I think when you reach a point where you know more than your own, boss. Um, and I mean, and my boss was very sweet guy, and he hired me because I, had the experience that he didn't.
Hmm.
But, um, there just wasn't anywhere I could go. There's no real room for growth. after 6 years.
So you felt like you hit your limit at that point.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of expand my horizons and do things my own way and pick the projects that I would work on. And I took a risk there, for sure.
Mhm.
And it hasn't been the easiest. But I think, ultimately I made the right decision there to just do what I needed to do,
Yeah.
for growth purposes.
Gotcha. And I can totally understand that, because you get to a point where you realize, you know what, yeah, it's sweet getting a paycheck, every week. It's sweet having to do what I love to do, but there's just that one little thing that keeps gnawing away at you, and you just, it finally gets, pretty prominent, where you're like, I don't know if I can keep this up, So I definitely feel where you're coming from. So so what are you doing at the moment with your production company? Because it's a fairly recent entity, right?
Yeah. Yep, I've been freelancing for a year now, so yeah, it is still kind of new. I'm still new to that kind of that way of thinking, Yeah. So I've been working on some narratives. That company I told you about, Movie Makers, where I learned how to make movies. Right now, I am working for them, freelancing for them. So that's been what I've been doing the past couple months, and now I've picked up a few other gigs. I probably shouldn't say too much about those, but yeah, things seem to be kind of slowly building back up, because this summer, I will say, was tough. I think that's apparently what happens with most freelancers. It's always summer. Summer is always slow because businesses just, they aren't as active. They're all on vacation, and
Right.
and then
Right.
once September hits, it's like boom, back in business.
Right. That's what I always thought was fascinating, was the fact that you would think that there would be something to do in the summertime, but apparently not. Everything just picks up as soon as September 1st hits.
Yeah.
A recurring question that I've been asking a lot of my guests lately: how do you find yourself assuming more of a businessman mentality, as a filmmaker these days, or are you more, or are you still more creative than you are business, especially given that you're now working for yourself, and you're trying to run run your own production company?
That's a really good question. I would say that I wind up doing a lot of things on the business side. It's not that I really want to, it's that I have to make contracts. I have to make invoices. I have to send out cold emails. I have to advertise. It's just part of the territory. I would like to spend more time just being creative. But I think 50% of the job is the business side of it.
Right.
Yeah. And I am, looking for other opportunities, whether that's, part-time work or full-time, and freelancing, nights, weekends. I'm kind of open to all possibilities at this point,
Yeah.
kind of kind of go where the wind blows me, so to speak, you know?
Yeah, but the reason why I bring that up is because you and I know very well that when we were in school, um, and I've been saying this for the past episode. So all of our viewers watching, I know it. I know you hear it over and over again, but it's a very very important point. When we were in school, the business aspect was seldom emphasized. We were mainly focusing on the technical side of filmmaking, but I've learned over the past few months that that filmmaking, if not half, it most of it is composed of the business aspect. Do you feel that this was something you had to learn through experience, or did you have to ask people on how to do this? How did you navigate the business aspect of filmmaking?
Um, I think I just kind of figured it out as I went along. I'm a very organized person, so that's never been an issue. It's just, yeah, I definitely made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, when I was first freelancing. I didn't understand things like talking about the payment before you do the project.
All right.
I yeah, I just didn't get that you have to establish everything.
Yeah.
It's not like ordering a bunch of stuff at a restaurant and here's your bill. I just kind of I guess I used to assume that that's just how it was done, but no. Yeah, kind of just through learning from mistakes and these days, I'm pretty strict about contracts, unless it's somebody I've worked with for 20 years or something. But, contracts are important. Invoicing, and I learned to do that kind of stuff just, over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, nobody really taught me. I certainly did not know any of this in school. I feel like they really should. I mean, they should have a business class as one of those gen eds or something. It'd be very helpful.
Or at least kind of incorporate it into it like they did with media law,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like that would maybe be more useful than media law.
Speaking of which, I had Monica Trombley on last week, and we did talk about the legal aspect of filmmaking, and I knew that I knew that there was that the law played a role in how you made a film, but the way she broke it down, it was like, oh my God, like there's just, I mean, you got to be very careful, or else someone could easily sue your balls to the wall. You did mention that that it was a learning curve for you when it came to all these contracts. Did you have to do it by yourself, or did you find yourself consulting a lawyer, or did you seek legal advice whenever you're doing these productions, or what?
No, not really. I just found a contract template and filled in the blanks. And I keep my contracts, most of them anyway, pretty informal. Just, I mean, as long as they, I have their signature and agree to these terms, because a lot of my clients are, solo. They're they're doing what I'm doing, but they're outsourcing. So they're not, huge companies where you have to go through like a long legal process or anything. It's just, it's just kind of like making it official,
Gotcha. So it isn't it's nothing complicated to where you would need to have everything written in legalese, right?
Right. I mean, some contracts are like that, but that's usually something that's provided to me. If somebody wants write an official legal contract and have me sign it, I am perfectly fine with that. You know. But yeah, mostly, you know, if it's just one person I'm working with, it's nothing like that. So
what I like to do on this podcast is have my guests give some sort of advice to young filmmakers just who are just starting out, because I figured, you know, with a podcast like this, I definitely at least wanted to be informative. Do you have any particular advice or any particular lesson that you feel would be, you know, would be important for, you know, for a young filmmaker starting out, or a film student who's thinking about getting their feet wet in the film industry?
Yeah, I would say networking is really important. You know, ask your friends, you know, if they know anybody at all in the business who could possibly help, and maybe they'll know somebody who knows somebody. And start off with PA work. That's what I did. I just, you know, I had to really work my way up, you know. Some people would say, you know, start working for free, but I have to say, if you're trying to make a living, don't do that. You know, if you're editing or something, don't do that for free unless it's an internship or something. But still, yeah, you have to work your way up and network like crazy. That's really the best advice I can give. I mean, I'm doing that every day. I'm always networking, you know. And it's just, you never know what's going to happen, especially as a freelancer. I never know. Like, every day is going to be different.
Right. Because you know, the next person you meet could, you know, take you to the next level.
Right, exactly.
So are you working on any any personal projects, or are there any other short films that are in the pipeline that you want to plug?
No, honestly, after I finished Love and Lust, I've just been focusing on my business. I really haven't had time to write anything. You know, it's just been in a very different headspace. And something was kind of in the works for a while, but just is more of a money thing, really, you know.
Right.
I think that next time I make something, I'm gonna have a producer invest in it, and so it won't be out of pocket again.
Right.
You know, but if I don't write anything, then
Gotcha.
yeah.
So so we're definitely coming to the end of the episode, but before we sign off, is there a favorite movie or TV show that that you're just bursting to recommend to people?
Wow, because there are so many good ones out there. I'm actually in the middle of watching Better Call Saul, and that's really good. Yeah. Breaking Bad's really good. The Leftovers, that's not as well known as those two. I do recommend The Leftovers. If you're into horror, I recommend the Mike Flanagan series. The Haunting of Hill House is my favorite of his collection. But I'd save that for Halloween. You know, I'm trying to think. So there's so many good shows out there. but yeah, those are the few that came to mind, I guess.
Gotcha. Well, Becca, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast, and I definitely want to bring you back for future episodes. Just because I feel like there's a lot that you can offer in terms of advice, and also a lot of a lot of takes on different subject matters. Because I definitely want to pick your brain when it comes to understanding millennial humor, because that is something that I'm trying to figure out myself, and I figure that'd be a pretty good topic. So, I definitely foresee you coming back on for future episodes.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Excellent. Well, that's gonna do it for today's episode. If you definitely enjoyed watching us, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and as I mentioned earlier, check us out on Spotify. We have majority of our episodes uploaded on there. And Becca, if you have any links to your social media or website, we'll definitely put it down in the description below. But for the Movie Pope, thank you so much for watching, and take it easy. Ciao.